even J Kidd, I never forget when J Kidd was a rookie, he was looking at we played against who was J Kidd? We played against uh, New York and Mark Jackson. You know, Mark was a big guard. Jay was like just looking, and I'm like, Red man, it's crazy, right? He was like, gee, man, Jay was second pick, and he was like, yo, man, it's surreal, man, that we out here and we playing against Jordan, Clyde. It was just something that you'll never forget how you felt playing against guys like that. That was your idols. So with the culmination of all of that, you still have to win. You still have to go out and compete and be competitive and get your rest and not be tempted to go out and hang out all night in New York and have to get up and fly to Orlando the next morning. So it was just, a lot of things as a rookie. And the vets knew how to go about it. Rookies, we trying to enjoy every moment. Vets say, yo, sleep nice, Rook. Go and get your rest. And so it's all of that learning stuff that you have to get down and understand. This is work, man. This is your job. So the NBA stands for not for long or no babies allowed. They had all kind of little slogans, and you have to pick it up and be about your business. And that's the part that brotherhood and these guys bring you along. Chuck Person took me under his wing and showed me how it was to be a pro. And those moments you think about all the time, you reminisce in your mind. And when you see those guys, it's just like you've been with them every day. That's the cool part about it.
1997, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Great Western Forum. Everything you see turns to gold. You look in the rafters, and you know about this because your jersey is in Tucker Center. You look up there and you see, Kareem, Magic, and championships are expected. If there's no parade, it wasn't a good season. Take us into La La Land, Inglewood, the Los Angeles Lakers, and what that was like to put on that jersey and to be a part of that program, with, again, Magic Johnson and all the guys. What was that like?
To be honest with you, man, it was good and bad because when I got there, Shaq, it was Shaq first year, Kobe's rookie year, and I never forget my first day of practice. I was getting ready to practice. I was excited. Damn, tie my shoe. Just got my ankles taped because I used to always get my ankles taped, and I wore braces. So I'm putting my braces on, and I'll never forget Eddie Jones walked past me. Eddie's a Florida boy, as I am, and he said, "Yo, G, what you doing?" I looked down and said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm getting ready to practice." And he said, we're not practice players, we game players around here." And I said, "What?" And that kind of threw me for a loop because in LA it's a facade. Everybody's an actress, everybody's an actor. It's like, yo, when am I gonna reach some real people, man? Everywhere you go, I'm like, man, are you serious? So that wasn't a good fit for me. I'm a Southern boy. That just wasn't a good fit for me. And but the one thing I can say is Diesel, Diesel and I were cool. Cole, what I knew from the beginning he was going to be a beast because his work ethic after practice. Let's play 1-on-1. Nick, let's play 1-on-1. Gee, let's play 1-on-1. He always wanted to work on his game. Always wanted to work on his game. But the one thing I'll say about Cole, we called him Kid Cole. And younger guys that come into the league, it's veterans' responsibility to grab those guys and keep them in the moment. I think about this all the time. Kobe was known as like an introvert, a loner, didn't want to be around his team that much. And we played a part in that as teammates because Kobe was 17, 18 years old. And when we got to different cities, everybody was out doing their own thing. And as a 17, 18-year-old, he couldn't go out to the clubs. He couldn't go with us. He didn't hang with us. And it kind of hardened him. And later on his career, he didn't hang with his teammates. You know, he did everything isolated. And I think now when the young guys, you know, they have to play 1 year, but a lot of those guys aren't old enough to get in the clubs either. So the league needs to implement something to where those guys are included because you don't want to have that situation and you look back on it and you think you could have helped that situation out. I do that all the time when I think about Cole because if knowing how I am now, I would have, you know, let's go to the movie, bro. Let's get something to eat. It wouldn't have been get into town. Yo, Eddie, what you doing? Check. What's happening? You know, it was just we didn't take young guys into consideration, and that's something that I think about all the time because Cole was, and that drove him. I can honestly say that drove him because that's all he could do is work on his game. He couldn't do anything else. He couldn't go out. So Cole would go get shots when we're out at dinner or at this club or you know he's working. So you know I like to say we played a part in his greatness by not really including him while he's working on his game. So that's something that players have to really take into consideration when these young guys are coming into the league.
George, the Phoenix Suns are making a lot of noise in the Valley of Sun. When you look at what Chris Paul is doing and Coach Monty and you know the guy's book, I mean, it's a tough place to play to go in and try to get one on the road. When you played with Phoenix, what was it like for you personally? And take us back to your days in the Valley of the Sun.
The best team I played, the most complete team I played, and actually the closest team as far as guys hanging out, being around each other. I mean, if you think about KJ, Steve Nash, and Jay Kidd back, Dennis Scott, myself, Rex Chapman, Cedric Ceballos, Cliff Robinson, Antonio McDyess, Danny Manning, Hot Rod Williams. We had a stick. We had 11 guys who could play. You know, and when I first signed, Jay Kidd was like, "Yo, G, come play with me. Come play with me, G. Come." I'm like, that was my dude. So, and I know the style of play in which he played with. I played my best basketball with him. So quite naturally, I would want to continue to play with him. But going there, I never thought the other guys would be so cool. I was like, you go play with Danny Manning. I'm thinking Danny Manning is square. I'm thinking Hot Rod is, you know, different type of dude. Man, when I got there, those guys were so much fun. Practice was so competitive. Danny Ainge was cool. I was like, yo, man, this is, I mean, we won 50 games, 50 plus games, both years, went to the playoffs. It was a great situation. They love basketball in Phoenix. And it's not surprising that that team is doing what they're doing because it's a basketball town. I mean, I think it's more of a basketball town than a football town. And Chris Paul is, the ultimate floor leader, competitor, general, professional. I mean, he makes everybody better. Ayton is getting better every game. Booker is in attack mode at all minutes of the game. The bench is very complete. I'm rooting for Phoenix. I think I would love to see Chris Paul get one. And the biggest thing about the NBA is keeping guys together. That team is like, reminds me of Golden State after they won the first. You got all of the guys, you got your nucleus back. You got the core guys back. So all you do is plug in pieces and you keep that train moving. And that's what Phoenix has done. Monty has come and done a great job. James Jones is bringing in pieces that they need. Last year, as soon as Ayton went out the game, Milwaukee took over. Wasn't no size, wasn't no rebounding. Now you put JaVale McGee in the game, and you pretty much got the same type of guy as Ayton, probably with more energy. So that's just the way James has put the pieces together. They're going to be a problem in the playoffs.
Take us into Tampa Bay Windjammers, and then take us into Mile High, the Denver Nuggets, a special place. And again, people always talk about the altitude, and if you're not used to it, you can get tired, you can get winded, you could be blown because you can't breathe.
Well, the Jammers I never played for. I don't know how that came about. Okay. I've seen that a few times, but I never played for the Jammers.
Okay.
But Denver, man, listen, that altitude is for real. Even when we leave and go on let's say East Coast swing, and we're gone for 6 or 7 days, it takes a few days when we come back in town to get your wing going. I mean, if you went to Denver now, you ran up, let's say, 8 floors, 8 steps, and you get to the top, you're like, man, is something wrong with me? I mean, that altitude is, I remember Shaq used to come and he used to be like, yo, G, I don't know, how you play out here, man? I mean, guys used to be on the bench with oxygen masks. I mean, it's serious, that altitude. And Utah have it just as much as them. It's the same time when you go to Utah. It's something you can't prepare for because it just hits you. And but you go out there and you're in shape in Denver, you come back east, you don't get tired at all. You just run. We were in New York the first time we beat New York. Terry Davis, my guy, we had the same age. T-Rock looked at me. T-Rock played with us in Dallas, me and J Kidd in Dallas, so we go way back. T-Rock said, yo, T, man, I'm not tired at all. And I'm like, yeah, T-Rock. Yeah. I mean, and T-Rock's 6'10", 270 pounds, big guy, and he's just flying up and down the court. So it is an advantage, a huge advantage. And you just have to run guys and use it to your advantage. And that's what Denver has been doing the last couple of years.
George, currently we hear a lot about HBCUs. We know it's Black History Month, and you came up in Daytona, Bethune-Cookman. I cover their football and the Let's Go Wildcats men's basketball. Talk about HBCU, what that means to you personally, and the whole concept and why that's important. And we see guys giving back and wanting to be a part of it. Reggie Theus is actually there, and several guys are giving back and putting their stamps, if you will, on HBCU. But why are historically Black colleges and universities important, and not just to our people, but to everybody?
Well, believe it or not, man, I've gotten very political. My TV stay on MSNBC more than ESPN, and historical Black colleges have always been where the better basketball players, football players had to go. So to see, it do. I mean, Prime has really come in and changed the mentality and attitude of top-notch players, because one thing Prime can tell them, one thing I can tell them, the NBA guys will find you. It didn't make a difference where you went. You're from Portland. Who knew Dame Lillard before? I mean, guys in our position knew who he was, but the regular fan didn't know who he was. And coming out of Weber, it's not a big name. And these guys, these kids now who are going to these historical Black colleges, it's going to be a lot of those guys to play at the next level. And with the fact that the voting rights and all of that is playing a big part, if the African American kids chose these historical Black colleges, if you get the top players, you can win national championship, NCAA tournaments right there. I mean, the thing about Kentucky, Rick Pitino does a great job, but he gets the best players. Nick Saban does a great job. I mean, how difficult is it to get the top players in the country and win with them? That's not difficult, especially the one thing I'll give Coach K, Kentucky, I give them credit. They get the best talent and they make them play hard. Not so much. I mean, I go to these practices and I don't want to, blow anybody up, but a lot of these guys aren't teaching guys, or the pro ranks aren't aware that a lot of these guys can do what they do on the pro level. Example, no one knew Anthony Davis faced the basket, played with his back to the basket. We knew he can dribble the ball because he was a point guard in high school, but his skill set has far exceeded what we've seen of him in college. So did Bam Adebayo. So I can name a lot of these guys. Just imagine if you had Bam, Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns at Jackson State. You had Booker at Jackson State. What would happen? You just tell me if those guys wouldn't win a national championship at Bethune-Cookman. It would happen. And it's great to see that some of the top-notch guys, number one ranked player Prime gets. And now he's number one the whole time, but when he signed with Jackson State, he dropped to number 2 in the ranking. You're always fighting against something. And Prime can teach him. Prime can bring other ex-NFL guys to work with them. Those guys will get to the league. If he went to Florida State, he doesn't have any better chance of not succeeding because he went to Jackson State. So I'm an advocate for these guys, especially if it means doing what's right for voting rights. I mean, if we took all of these African-American kids and we made a point, hey, it may not hurt you, but it's hurting your grandmother. Maybe your great-grandmother is still alive. And that's the way you can create change. By these mothers making a point. Hey, we see your son. We know who he is. We know everything about him. I was a scout. I was in the front office of Golden State, Denver. I mean, Golden State and Sacramento. So I know what to look at as a player, no matter where you are. CJ McCollum. I was a huge fan of CJ. I told Sacramento we should draft CJ. So we'll find it. But my thing is, it's a time now that we can make a difference for generations to come by speaking out, getting these kids to go to these Black universities, and that will make it that will create change in itself. Because you mean to tell me if you took Alabama recruiting class and say, hey, you guys don't do anything about the voting rights, these kids are going to go to Jackson State. What do you think gonna happen? What do you think Nick Saban is going to do? He's going to call all of those congressmen in Alabama and say, "Hey, you guys need to do something." So I got some friends in high position, and I talk to them all the time. Hey, let's go out and speak to these kids and get them to play with Prime, to play with Eddie George, to play with Hugh, to go to Bethune-Cookman. You know, one thing I did, I always went back. When I went home, I played equipment every day. I went up there and I showed my face. Locals, even kids that's not from Daytona, would see a pro playing in their gym. You playing against me. So just make them feel like when some kids may have a good day against you. Hey man, I think I can play in the league, man. I play well against McCloud. And that's what you need sometimes, you know, a barometer to where you, okay, he's here, I'm here, but I played here today. So I always tried to go back and work out and not feel that I'm better than anybody. So it's important to do both. It's important to be a part of what's going on in life, but also important to give back. And it's nothing more important than giving your time. And you can give money, you can give, you know, jerseys and sneakers, but giving your time is critical.
Hey George, back in the day, who was the first NBA player that you were able to see and talk to and interact with in life? Did you see anybody back in the day when you were coming up? Take us back and give us that situation.
Daryl Dawkins. Daryl Dawkins was the first person who's from Orlando. And it was crazy, man. When I went to Italy, I used to hang out with Doc all the time. The Americans in Europe would always get together on holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving. So Daryl's wife cooked a feast. So all the Americans would go to Daryl's house if you were in that vicinity. And Daryl played in Rimini, and I played in Pesaro, which was only about 50 kilometers away. So about 35 miles. Daryl was in one town, and I was in another. So I used to hang out with Daryl all the time, and I'll never forget. He broke a backboard in Daytona. And I was like, yo, man, I remember when I was a kid, I watched you come through cooking. So we always chopped it up like that. Daryl was a great dude, man. But I'll tell you, a person who left me in awe when I met him was Bernard King. I was in college my junior year, and we was going through the airport. Bernard was sitting down, legs crossed. Bernard had his hat on, and my coach was like, "Go say hello to him." I don't know myself. I walked over to him. BK was so cool, man. So cool. I was like, yo, man, I was just like, King, I had just seen Bernard score 50. I was like, yo. And the fact that, guys take time out to talk to you. Told me he had seen me play when he found out, we were Florida State. He was like, just keep working, encouraging, little comments he made. You can't replace that. So I would say BK was someone who was just like an idol, someone I looked up to, and someone when I met him, I never thought I would get the reception that he gave me, and made me feel like it was cool to walk up to him, talk to him. So big ups to BK, and I actually told him that one time. He remembered when we was coming through the airport, so I thought that was really cool.
Awesome. When you were coming up and the Orlando Magic brought in an expansion franchise, NBA 1989, Arena, Paramore, Colonial, downtown Orlando. What was it like to see that come to fruition and have an NBA franchise in Central Florida?
It was huge, man. It was huge, and I kind of wanted to play in Orlando, and then again, I didn't. I didn't want the distraction. And my guy Nick Anderson, and Nick and I had the same age. We both represented by Bill Pollard, so we was hanging out before the draft. It was cool that Nick ended up doing that, having a great career, and we stayed in contact. And I never forget. I got a lot of respect for Nick because Nick came to my mother's funeral. He didn't even know me, and he just knew Bill, and I sent him a message probably about a year ago, just telling him how much that meant to me, and I appreciated him, and I looked at him in a whole different light for him doing that, because his mom had took ill, and there was something on Facebook, so I just reached out to him and told him I'm here for him because he did the same thing for me, and that's what it's about, the brotherhood, and being the first draft pick of Orlando, which he was. I mean, it was really cool to have a pro franchise so close to where I grew up, and I used to go to games, watch Orlando, and when I was in college, a few times I came back, went to a few games. And, it was exciting, man. It was, and to always feel that it was a possibility that I could one day possibly play for Orlando, play so close to Daytona, was always something I thought about.
There's a gentleman who came up after you, same high school, same gymnasium. I had the opportunity to cover the Vince Carter Basketball Academy, basketball camp, but it's an academy because it's got some different components to it. It's a beautiful thing. But when you look at that gentleman and his body of work and what he's been able to do, in 2000 with USA on his chest in the Olympics, he jumped over a gentleman. And I want to say the gentleman is over 7 feet tall, or at least 7 feet. Your thought process of Vince Carter, Vinsanity, take us into your thoughts on Vince.
Great guy, humble guy. I'll never forget. Around his first year, my 7th year, I was home and I was in the mall, and he was with, I guess, a young lady he was dating at the time, and he seen me and he was like, "Gee, what's going on, man?" So we gave each other pounds, and said we was going to get together and work out, which we did a few times. And I heard him tell the young lady, "That's the guy right there who started this. He was the first one from Daytona to make it to the league." And I don't think he even knew I heard him, but it was cool to hear that. mutual respect, and when we see each other, it's what's going on, things good. So, but Vince, came in and was very explosive. Um, Developed his game. Wasn't known as a shooter coming in, but I think Vince probably is in the top 7 or 8 3-pointers made in NBA history. So you can tell he worked on his game and had a great career. And I personally believe he's a future Hall of Famer. And it's really good to see him get to that level and see other kids from Daytona know they have actually 4 of us who played in the NBA. Because Tony Bobbitt played for the Lakers and Tim Pickett played for New Orleans. So it gives kids something to strive and look forward to seeing, one day that could be me. So big up to Vince, all the things he's done and continue to do. He's on TV now, broadcasting game, and it's good. It's a positive thing, and I wish him nothing but the best.
Tracy McGrady down in Auburndale. You look at what Chucky was able to do coming out of Orlando. There's a lot of guys, or there's a group of elite guys who made it, so to speak. You look at Stoudemire, he could jump out of the gym, and he went on and played in Phoenix. So there's a group of guys from Central Florida who made it. How special is it to be a part of that fraternity?
It's very special, because again, Florida is known as a basketball state, and now you have some a football state, and now you have some basketball players who are at Hall of Fame level, and the state is just producing really good, high level players, and it's just repeating itself. And all those guys can look at us and look to strive to get to the next level, to play in the NBA for years to come. And it's good to be a part of that group.
George, in closing, anytime anybody steps foot in Tucker Center, I don't care if they're going to see the Ice Capades or the Globetrotters or a concert, or if they're just going to a meeting or to get whatever the case may be, when they look up in the rafters, they can't miss you. Talk a little bit about that, and is it sinking in? Like, how does that feel to be a part of that pantheon? And again, it's not for everybody. Everyone's not able.
Man, it's a humbling experience. It's a sense of pride from my point, because I know I worked really hard to get to that point. And like I said, it's not something I sought out coming in. It's something that kind of took a life of its own. And as I got better, I knew it was an opportunity, a possibility, because I played so well for 2 years. I mean, I could have had arguably the best 2 years of the guys that's already the other 6 guys that's in there. I mean, I played at such a high level for my junior and senior year, so I kind of felt that eventually I would get in. I didn't know, because to me, I thought I was deserving sooner. If you just base it on college, but it was great to be a part of. I know Coach Ham was my guy who played a big part of making it happen. And the voters, everybody who had played a part in it, I appreciate it. It's good for my kids to be able to look up there and was a part of it this week, to see that their dad was pretty good, because my daughter is now wanting to play basketball. And one time there was a book or something in school, and it was about Shaq. And my wife was like, Brooklyn, my daughter's name is Brooklyn. She's like, Brooklyn, you know Daddy played with Shaq. She turned around, she was like, you play with Shaq? Didn't know. I never told her. And I was like, yeah. So I showed her a picture of me and Shaq sitting on the bench together. He was sitting right next to me when I first got to LA, and he wasn't playing yet. And then I showed her when I was playing against him. So she was just like ear to ear grin, showing her friends, and they get to live it and be a part of it. And that's what makes the jersey growing up so special. Everybody that goes to Florida State, that's from Central Florida, maybe from Daytona, you'll see me in the rafters. That can never change.
Well, folks, there you have it from George McCloud. He is a basketball